Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Tobe Poltergeist in 1982. Here we are with another horror review. Of course, the Halloween week. I'm kind of doing pretty much. I say that because I've kind of missed out on every day a horror review. And of course, Halloween should be up on Halloween. Would be a horror-related list of some sort. As I've said, it's probably not going to be like a top 10 or top 25 because I don't really want to get into that until I've explored, kind of reviewed them films, some of them ones, and yeah, basically that won't be it. But some sort of horror-related list I'll try and do. But yes, here we are with a film I've seen many, many times. It's another rewatch, just on Sky tonight, and yes, very, very iconic. And of course, the 80s, as I've said, really for me is the best decade of horror of all time, and 70s probably yeah, no, I'd say the 80s, but the 70s probably come in second place with that in terms of horror. And going back to the classics as well. I don't think horror films are as good, anywhere near as good, nowadays. Well, films aren't in general for me, but yeah, basically, this film, 82. Now, this film, is very, very controversial, and kind of, there's a lot of kind of debate of who actually directed this film because of course, Steven Spielberg, the most famous director of all time, he basically came up with the idea of this film. All the concepts conceived by him. The storyboarding, I've heard a bit of different, kind of disputes. And I think this is important to say. That some say he done all of the storyboarding. Some say he done, half and half. And most of the kind of evidence or people saying stuff, does point to Spielberg, basically directing or at least co-directing this film. But because it's not actually official, credit given to him, I will count this as a Tobe film, and I won't be, including this on my Spielberg ranking or anything like that when I do it. But yes, a clause in one of his contracts, Spielberg at the time with Universal, I think, basically said he couldn't direct another film while E.T. was getting made. So basically, it seems to me like most of the creative input is from Spielberg. And basically he had to hire another director who he thought was promising from Texas Chainsaw, which is one of the best horrors of all time for me, and brought him in and they kind of worked together a bit. But really it is, and when I've seen a lot of Spielberg, and well, he is one of my top 5 directors actually. I'll say it now, and to me as a fan, this feels nothing but a Spielberg film. Everything, the visuals, the feel of it, the kind of charm, the wonder, just the kind of spirit of the film, and really loads of different elements in this. Feel like it, and of course, obviously a lot of his crew were on this as well. Worked on this, editing, Michael Kahn. It just really does not feel like anyone else really. It feels like a Spielberg film, and of course, yeah, one of the greatest directors. Now, I will say, of course, Tobe directed this, and of course, yeah, I will just refer to it as the direction because it really no one's got no one's actually given him Spielberg full credit, so I can't actually say that. But yes, this film, I'll get out of the way, is absolutely amazing for me. It's one of my favourite horrors. I've seen this a lot, as a kid and everything, and yeah, I've seen it quite a lot of times. And basically, Craig T. Nelson, he plays Stephen. Freeling, it was the Freeling family basically, in this really nice neighbourhood, which again looks like ET. So again, kind of similarities there, but the neighbourhood there. But yes, basically they're in this house, in this neighbourhood, and things crop up here and there. Throughout the film, that it's kind of built on around the cemetery and stuff. Little different things that kind of a bit off, and basically things happen very early on. They're getting things built and everything in the house, but chairs are getting moved. It's basically paranormal activity kind of stuff. That happens in a lot of ghost these sort of films. And basically, you learn after a while that it's not a official haunting. It's kind of a poltergeist instead. The little girl, Carol Ann, basically she gets taken around the half an hour mark, and by these spirits, these entities, and she gets put into another kind of realm, but you can hear her and stuff throughout the film. And the rest of the film is basically the family dealing with this. It explores a lot of spiritual stuff here, and them just basically trying to get back to her. Of course, Diane, and Stephen trying to get back to their daughter, and as well you've got these investigators coming in, and there's a medium as well. Basically, I think yeah, she is a medium, and she comes in, very very famous stuff, and she of course tries to help, and yeah, it's just I think it's a really wonderful film, and I just think it's among the best horror films, my favourites at least. I think it's a great film. I don't think it's quite a masterpiece. It has got some flaws. Early on, this film, of course, it has some really great stuff early on, and the opening, actually, the very opening scene without the kind of dialogue is really great. Just another thing, great, clear, visual storytelling, and again, this feels like Spielberg, in this way that, say, Close Encounters or E.T., the kind of stuff where you can do basically openings without any dialogue, and just concisely get across what he's trying to say. Through the most important thing in cinema is the visual storytelling, really, for me. And that can be many, many different things, but he does it better than most have ever done in his best films. But you can kind of see that here. The way the camera moves, very, very flowing. And yeah, basically a great atmosphere set up. And yeah, basically, once this happens, you learn the things that are happening with the TV and everything. Things are set up really wonderfully, and there's a couple of flaws, as I said. Mainly in the first half an hour or so. Some off-tone moments for me. Stephen and Diane, there's a scene where they take drugs, I believe, and they're just doing things that are a bit stupid. If this had been cut out, it wouldn't have made a difference at all. Really, it didn't really reveal anything about their characters. But certainly really didn't fit the film. This scene, it was a bit over the top and kind of just annoying. And the older sister in the film, she's not a great character. And yeah, just a couple of moments with her where she's talking to these builders and stuff, just a bit stupid there. And yes, basically maybe one or two moments after that where it's just a bit slight camp, slight campiness there. And really, yeah, apart from that, it is an absolutely stunning film. And I think it has some flaws, but really, they don't take it away from being a truly great film. They do stop it from being a masterpiece, but it really, really elevates this film. It's not a film that's really got any jump scares. It's more about atmosphere, and of course, just really, really disturbing imagery. The effects are great as well. I think scene where the guy's kind of pulling his face off, that is really disgusting. And they use all prosthetics, and everything, and it's really, really. It's quite violent, this film, the graphic, I would say, very graphic, and, but again, it kind of deals with the psychology of it all, which is what the best horrors do, kind of just very, very disturbing, and kind of a relatable family, that, that are kind of presented, and, you can kind of get in their shoes. I really love the charm of the opening scenes, the kind of first half an hour, despite having a couple of flaws. It is really, very warm, typical kind of, great Spielberg, kind of presenting this, like he done, in his early days. I love, his family scenes a lot of the time, in his films, and yeah, it's just really, really, really warm here. I loved it, and introduced to the characters. There's some comedy in there. Doesn't work perfectly, as I've said, but really it is very nice and charming, and very, very human. I feel. And then, when things do happen, it takes, a good amount of time to build this up patiently. And then when things do happen, really, really care about it. And then it really becomes a much better film once, Caroline is taken. And you've got these investigators. The whole kind of teaming up of it was really, really enjoyable. I think it worked, pretty much perfectly. I loved just really all the characters, the side characters even. Really, really memorable. I think the script is absolutely wonderful in places. It really is very, very contemplative, and just really, really powerful stuff. Kind of when they tap into the kind of spirituality of it all, I think it's wonderful. And Spielberg, of course, just wonderful script. And just a really, really wonderful story. Really, and it's full of so much genius ideas. And the execution. Of the actual. Of course, the big set pieces and everything are pretty much perfect. They are stunning. But just the way it's directed, and the way it's sustained, the tension, but also the sense of wonder. And of course, it just has its beautiful moments as well. The visuals alone really are stunning. And the lighting is just really something else. The blues, in the scenes, of course, in the bedroom in particular. And yeah, I just think it really does really delve with the psychology of it all, and it has a moment in the film, with about 25 minutes left of the film where it kind of you think it could, it's about to end, but then it goes for another final act, which does not disappoint, and it's really just great. Kind of if you've seen it for the first time, it's really unexpected. That how it goes back again, to that, and it's just great. I think it's really amazing stuff happens there. Very very tense, great set pieces, and it's really just so creative, this film, and really really confidently made. It's just a very very emotional film, and it's overall really well acted. I think performances are mostly great. The actress that played the older daughter wasn't great, but apart from that, I think mostly, certainly, after the first half an hour, everyone's really good slash great. Craig T. Nelson is really really good, especially as well, and yeah, you've just got an all round great cast. The characters are really really amazing. I think the children actors, child actors in the film, really do give really nice performances. I think they're great overall, and of course, it's very very must have been very disturbing, but they really pulled it off wonderfully. Especially the young actress that played Carol Ann, and yeah, basically, I think, as I've said, there's some flaws in the first sort of act of the film, but again, it was still pretty much great. Just had really the most of the flaws of the film, and after that, it really is at times pretty masterful. Slash great, it's never really less than great at all, and it just sustained tension, sustained wonder, and the emotion of it all just builds and builds, and then it's very very satisfying. The film, but again, it changes them all. Over the course of the film, and it's just a really amazing film for me. I think it has been criticised over the years, and it's not massively acclaimed, but I do think it's an absolutely stunning film. I think the music as well. Wow, the score, by Jerry Goldsmith. He's done a lot of scores, this guy, and this is probably one of his best. Probably I could say it's better than Alien for me personally, and I just think it's full of emotion, and just childlike innocence. I think actually it's a film that really delves into that over the course of the film, and just the loss of innocence maybe, and kind of longing to get back with loved ones and all this kind of stuff. It's a really really emotional film. Really elevates through through the dialogue, but just everything. With the people that try and help her. It's really really full of heart, and just really really moving film at times. And of course, I love the ending as well. A bit of comedy in there. So really, it's not quite a flawless film, but a lot of the film is. And I think it really. I can't ignore some of the early flaws. Definitely just a couple moments really. Had me thinking, that's a bit too much. Very much, breaking the tone there, and the drug scene, for me, just didn't really work at all. But that's about it. I think, aside from maybe one shot that went a bit too over the top as well. After that, it really it's a stunning film. It's near masterful. And at times it really is. I think I'd have to give it a 96%. I think this film. I was going to give it 95, but really, just how well this film is executed, it's just quite marvel, really. And it's kind of, of course, I don't mean to be offensive or anything, but really, it really does feel like a Spielberg film. And I think, yes, it's not referred to as a Spielberg film, but it doesn't. I don't get anything other than what I've, Spielberg vibes when I'm watching this, and it just seems like, especially his 80s work, 70s work, which for me was at his best. Really, well, actually, really the 90s as well. He was just on top form. He's not quite as made as films I love as much this century, but there have been a couple that have blew me away. But yes, basically, it really does feel absolutely like a Spielberg film, and just the magic of this film, the wonder. The emotion, it's just all there. It has some flaws, a couple of tone breaks, and just one or two performances aren't quite there. But really, I got invested in this family life. Really uplifting, warm stuff. I loved the chemistry. I loved very very peaceful scenes as well when they're at night, at night and they're kind of in the house, kind of trying to keep quiet and stuff. I really loved that, and just the way this film delves into the spiritual side of things. At times is really really wonderful. Cannot stress that enough. The script is amazing, pretty much flawless. A very very thought provoking film, and just thoroughly entertaining really from start to finish. Has a really good amazing build up, but the film gets better and better, and basically great film, 96%. Not much else more to say, other than watch this film if you've not seen it. It's one of them ones, supernatural, kind of psychological, which for me are the best overall. Another great one from the 80s. For me, the best decade for horror. And yes, thanks for watching my review.